They did it. They bloody well did it. They did a single devlog that has excited me more than any devlog has for a very long while. Not only did they announce the implementation of the Challenger 2, one of my personal favourite tanks. Of course, I am British, so this is a vehicle I have been wanting to see for a while, but they also, in the exact same devlog, announced the implementation of Tier 7 for ground vehicles. This is blowing my mind. A single update, first update of the year. It's not exactly a big event going on. It's not like Gamescom where they're expected to announce something, but they're just like, you know what, Tier 7 ground vehicles, much more modern vehicles, take them. Here you go. This devlog is very interesting. So first off, a few things I noticed in the sort of beginning of the devlog that really do, one sort of quote in particular that really does give an idea of where Gaijin want to take this game. First off, the quote, "This update will bring War Thunder even closer to modern warfare." Of course, sort of giving the idea across that they want the game to become a far more modern warfare-like game, sort of spanning the entire length of sort of actual mechanical warfare, so to speak. Basically from post-World War I all the way up to modern day. So this will mean eventually things like the T-14 Armata, M1A2, all those sort of things, possibly even jet fighters, the Eurofighter Typhoon, F-35, all these sort of things will be in the game at some point, and we are going, at least for ground forces, at quite a rate. Tier 6 ground forces were only added just under 2 years ago, and we're already here at the Challenger 2, getting soon we will be in the 2000s for these vehicles, which is just insane to think about. So in this update, new Rank 7 armoured vehicles. Rank 7 for armoured vehicles, very big thing. That does mean that it is far more likely we're moving forward. From what I am hearing, some currently existing Tier 5 premiums will be moved to Rank 6, which does mean, of course, new Tier 6 premiums are certainly a possibility, something very interesting to think about. And Gaijin in the devlog did also say, and many other novelties for aircraft and fleet, which means more aircraft, some more boats, hopefully some supersonic stuff would be nice to see. So Rank 7 armor vehicles, update 1.87 will introduce even more armoured vehicles that were created and served during the 80s and the 90s of the 20th century. So I would take that to presume certainly the M1A1, of course the Abrams with the 120mm cannon, possibly the Leopard 2A5, maybe a T90. A T90 would be pretty cool to see, I will admit. Maybe just generally more modern stuff. The Japanese Type 10 is something I've seen mentioned a lot. Far more lighter armoured vehicle. A lot of people comparing it to sort of just a lighter Type 90, although I do think there's a bit more to it than that. Anyway, though, another thing that has been said is that we will make some changes to the battle ratings and rank positionings of some tanks in Tier 5 and 6 to make better balance to the land and combined battles in War Thunder. So this means, at least definitely for British tanks, something I've really been wanting for a while, the BR compression will be removed. They will decompress the BRs. Chieftains will hopefully go down a bit. I think the Challenger ones, they do get a bad rap, but I don't mind where they are right now. But I think generally the British stuff, decompress those BRs. Japan, they're in a difficult position. There are not many higher tier Japanese vehicles, so that could be difficult, but many other tiers as well. Decompressing the BRs a bit would just make it a lot more fun generally to play the vehicles, and it is good to see Gaijin taking in and saying, you know what, we do want to mention this balance stuff. We want to look into the balance of the vehicles and improve it for land combined battles. Anyway though, on to the main attraction of this devlog. Some might, of course, say that Tier 7 is the main attraction, but in my opinion, being British and all, the Challenger 2 is the main attraction. The Challenger 2 entered service in the early 90s and continues to serve with the British Army today. Of course, currently there is a life extension program going on. Of course, there's stuff like the Megatron development and also the BAE Black Knight version, which has more sensors. Personally, for me, I do prefer the Rheinmetall variant, which mounts the L55 cannon, which is far better than the L30 currently used by the Challenger 2, as well as a slightly redesigned turret, I believe. But nonetheless, that could be added to the game in the future, certainly, especially considering that this Challenger 2 will be, at least until the Life Extension Program variant is added, this will be the most advanced tank on the British tech tree. So it does seem fairly likely that the next one we will see will likely be, at least in terms of powerful MBTs for the British, the version that wins the Challenger 2 life extension contract, which I'm really hoping is that Rheinmetall variant. Anyway though, moving on from that, so the Challenger 2 is the most modern MBT fielded by the British Army. So it is kind of sad that we're looking at this and we're saying, yeah, this will possibly be the Challenger 2 as a tank. Of course, future variants may be added, but the Challenger 2 as a tank will be likely the last British MBT in the game, which is rather sad to hear. The Americans, they'll get the M1A1, then they'll get the A2. The Russians, T90, T14 Armata. The Germans, it is still a Leopard 2, but they have far more advanced variants of the Leopard 2 than there are of the Challenger 2. There's not a huge amount of variance with the Challenger 2. Now, this has got an improved gun, of course, over the 1. The Challenger 1 had the L11. This has the L30A1. This gun is still rifled. It is a 120mm cannon, and the reason it's rifled is because there was a very strong British doctrine at the time that really did emphasize the importance of having to use Hesh rounds. I don't really see why. I think fin stabilized stuff, which obviously doesn't require the rifling on the gun because it is fin stabilized, is far more useful at this point. Nonetheless though, the L30 cannon does share a good deal of its ballistic properties with the previous L11, although the exception is that it can fire newer and better performing sub-caliber rounds, so better APFSDS, better HeatFS, all that sort of stuff will definitely give this far more power. In terms of mobility, this is comparable to the Challenger 1. It's not the same engine, but it has the same horsepower, that being 1,200 horsepower, and this is a V12 diesel. Not the same model of engine as in the Challenger 1, but it is effectively the same thing. And the weight is very similar as well between the Challenger 2 and the Challenger 1, which means this does have a maximum speed of 35 miles an hour or 56 kilometers per hour under the ideal conditions, that being likely on road and on a smooth surface. Now, the major difference between the two vehicles is, of course, the armor protection. Challenger 2 is fitted not just with more, but also with a newer type of the Chobham armor, the Chobham Generation 2 armor. So, you know, this vehicle does now have 500 mil of penetration against kinetic rounds and over 900 against heat rounds. That means that pretty much any HeatFS round in the game now will likely not be able to pen you from the front. Some ATGMs, some versions of the TOW missile will be able to pen you, but nonetheless, very good armor right there. The hull of the Challenger 2, though, unfortunately, does retain a very similar protection level to the Challenger 1, especially being that it is effectively the same hull. You can definitely see the front of the hull definitely does show that. It is a very similar shape, and it does inherit one major weakness, being the lower frontal plate has effectively no armor, very weak in that sort of area. So the Challenger 2 will give British tankers, of course, a brand new and, you know, a fairly familiar MBT right there, to be honest. It is effectively a Challenger 1, just generally improved. The crucial improvements, of course, in firepower and protection. Now, the Challenger 2 will... Gaijin said the Challenger 2 will remain a second-line support tank rather than a front-line brawler. I don't know about that. You know, in-game currently, the Challenger 1s, I use them as brawlers. They have decent protection. The crew is fairly well spaced, giving it very good survivability. When you're facing Russian tanks, the crew, you generally have a 3-person crew, 2 in the turret. You hit the turret in the right place, you will kill them. So generally, I would personally disagree with that statement, but nonetheless, I have not tried the Challenger 2 yet, so it might be slightly different. And then they finished off just by saying, really, the Challenger 2 will charge into War Thunder's battlegrounds in the upcoming release of Update 1.87. In the meantime, be sure to stay tuned to the news for the latest developments on our next major update coming to the game. Until then, happy hunting, tankers. So, generally, this devlog, very interesting. Basically, a bit more enlightenment on sort of how Gaijin might want to take the game forward, moving into more modern things. And also the Challenger 2, a vehicle I've been wanting to see for ages. I have mentioned in my jokey 1.87 leak list, I did mention it, claiming it would be a premium, so I sort of called that, and I did actually, despite the video now being unlisted, I did about 4 months ago in a leak video, that when I still did leak videos, I did actually say it would be added this year, but... kind of called it, but, you know, I'm not really going to push that too much, as, you know, with those videos, it's not really what I do anymore. Anyway, though, certainly something I'm incredibly happy with. Challenger 2, yes. Other things that could be added to this update range, of course, from more supersonic jets, more modern MBTs, the M1A1, T90 possibly, maybe Type 10, although that might be a tiny bit modern for now, though I think it would perform okay in the game, and many other things. And, you know, the addition of the Challenger 2 really does put in my mind how we really are not that far from stuff like the T40 and Armata and all those super modern MBTs that we will likely be seeing at some time soon. Anyway though, I am going to end the video there. Definitely a devlog that has really been very interesting to look at, something I am incredibly happy to see. I hope you guys are happy about it too. Anyway though, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.